Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome back to Live and Uncut workshop. This is workshop number 7, and today I'm going to be talking to you about just the basics of using Lightroom, my preferred editing tool for your photographs. As I say, I'm just going to go through with you the basics. I'm not going to go into any explicit detail, which we'll go through later on when we start to do a little bit more work on our images. But this is just going to be, as I say, the start of how we import our photographs, get them into Lightroom, and just look at the images and start to make a initial editing to the images to improve them from what they were resting in the camera. But first of all, I want to go to the workshop group on Flickr, because had some images posted up, and I'm being told that it's nice to hear what I have to say about them. And please bear in mind, this is a very objective opinion of the images. So here we go. I'm going to start off with the first image here, which is called Low Tide by John Ilko. John, you got quite a number of favorites on this images, and some good comments as well. So it's obviously a well-liked image that you've posted here. I see nothing wrong basically with this image at all. It's got good balance. I like the tones. There's a lovely reflection here at the bottom half of the photograph, with the that sort of pier there, a walkout pier that you're photographing. My only comment would be just a little bit more space on the left-hand side. It looks as though the jetty moves out to the left-hand side there, so I'd be interested to know what was there. It may be that you've deliberately cropped it because you didn't like what was there. Well, that's fair enough. But that's the only thing I would say about this image. I'd like to see a little bit more space on the left-hand side. But I love the tones. I love the work that you've done in the sky. And as I say, the reflection on the from the jetty here on the jetty, it looks is a great image. So thanks for posting it up, John. I really appreciate you doing that, because it gives me an opportunity to talk through. That's one of my images. We won't talk about that, will we? Let's get to your work. I just like to post something up. I'm very happy if anyone wants to make comments on those, but it's not for me to start critiquing my own work on the workshop here. Second image is by Peter Beckett. I love this image, Peter. I think it's really good. There's a couple of issues though with it. The boys on the right hand side, they are to me a distraction. I would in actual fact clone these out. The boys on the estuary, because they could be confused with specs on your sensor or lens. So I would clone those out. The other issue you've got too much space on the left hand side. Remember what I said to you about composing in the last workshop? We're looking basically for movement of images of cars, boats, people walking, of them walking into the frame, and there's space for them on the side of that frame for them to walk into that space. Here you've just positioned the smaller boat is dead center, and the bigger boat is to the right hand side. Now, if you just look at that image, I think you'll get the impression that the image is just a little bit top heavy on the right hand side. So I would crop off the left-hand side, probably just about a quarter of the image, clone out those boys on the right-hand side of the larger yacht, and then take a think about what you've achieved there. And I think you'll find that is a really nice, subtle image, which, to be quite honest with you, could quite easily go on someone's wall. Just one other issue I've noticed here: there's a little dark patch up in the top left-hand corner here. That to me is probably something on your sensor, so be a little bit careful. But that to me, I think where we got this, as you can see, explore up here, I think that should be cropped down on that line there, which would bring the yachts to the left hand side, showing space for them to sail into. But otherwise, I really like the image. Just a couple of changes there for you. The next image, another one by Peter, and this is something which I want to touch on later on if I can find an image similar. This is a great street shot. A little bit busy on the right-hand side. I'm not really worried about that. But you need to brighten up this lady's face. And I'm going to come to that in the workshop. A very simple little trick to do that, just to bring her face out a little bit. It's too dark in the center. It's very light on the left-hand side and very light on the right-hand side with the lights there. So we need to do something about the main concentration which on the left-hand side of center, if you see what I mean, of this lady's face. We need to bring her out a little bit more. She is the subject of your image. She's on the phone. I want to see her face a little bit lighter. And another shot here by Peter. Well-timed image of someone cycling past the window there. I'm going to leave that one. I'm not going to concentrate too much on that one for today. Just want to come to this another one by Peter here. Again, I'm looking at this image. I can see the smoke trails. That's great. But what is the subject matter that I'm looking at? Am I concentrating on the back of these guys' heads? If so, that's not very interesting. The concentration of my point is that lady walking towards me, just left of center. And again, this is where I think we need to work on brightening her face up a little bit and maybe toning down these fellas' back of their heads and crop the lady off on the right-hand side, crop this lady out here. She does nothing apart from the fact she's got a cigarette as well. I think if you cropped her out and make it a little bit squarer, I think the image would be a little bit more stronger. So that's that. Thanks very much indeed for those uploads. I hope those comments have helped. Please keep them coming in. We've got a couple down here, in actual fact, of a snow scene by Stephen Green. I wanted to comment on this one as well. Again, I like this image here, Stephen. Nice balance. People down in the bottom right-hand corner gives me a sort of what are all these footmarks around here, which had come through on the snow, and then the main concentration of the dome in the background there. So a nice balance of image. People again in the center here. I probably, if anything, I would just do a little vignette here, just darken down the corners just a little bit. This is a little bit bright in the top right-hand corner. My personal preferences, but then again, what do I know? I've got 8 favorites here, so your work's really been noticed and well liked. So you know, keep on those ideas. It's a great image. I love the grain in this, which you've created by the noise. But this area here to me is just a little bit too bright, and I just tone that down and put a vignette around the whole of the image just to concentrate more onto the center. So thanks very much, guys, for posting those up. That's really appreciated, and we'll look forward to the next set, which is put through, loaded up rather onto the Flickr group, Photo Live Uncut Workshop. I really love seeing your images, and I hope you appreciate the comments I'm making. It is totally objective. My personal interpretation of your images, hoping that it helps you through when it's time for you to, I don't know, enter them into competition, or maybe you want to print them and put them on your wall. So Lightroom, this is, well, there was 2, or if you count Photoshop as well and the other elements, but Lightroom was created a number of years ago for editing of photographs, and Aperture created one as well through the Apple setup. It's slowly Lightroom became the favored editing tool to use. I know there's a lot of people out there that still prefer to use Photoshop, but the way Lightroom is moving, it's becoming a more and more powerful editing tool to use. And I've always used Lightroom. It just suited the way that I wanted to work. I checked out Aperture at the start off, but Lightroom suited me. So let's go to Lightroom, and we'll talk through the basis of, or the basics rather, of when you are using Lightroom. So hopefully, yes, you can see an image in Lightroom. So what I really wanted to show you, first of all, perhaps I should come out again. Just want to show you one little thing. A card reader. So that's the first thing that you're going to need. Some of you guys will be able to actually plug your camera directly straight into the back of your computer, and you can load your images straight from there using a USB cable. But I use a card reader, and I load the SD card into the card reader first, and then I plug it in to the cable, which is obviously sighted into the back of the computer. I find that's a safer way to do it. I have lost images by putting the SD card into the reader while it's attached to the computer. So it's just a safeguard for me, a little habit that I've got into, and I think it is a better way of doing it. So put the SD card into the reader first, then plug your reader into the cable. So let's go back to the screen share, you'll hopefully now see my internet, my screen, sorry, which is only showing the main page. It's not showing the import page, which is a shame, but anyway, I'll talk you through that. So once you've plugged in your SD card, you'll be given an import page, and then when you go to the import, you in actual fact select where you want the photographs to be loaded. This is simply by following the top menu, which gives you a copy or move options. Select your folder and download your images to that folder. That's the simplest way that I can talk about it now, as regards to the fact I can't actually show you the import page, which is a great shame, but there we go. Well, we'll try and get that sorted out another time for you. So basically, once you've got your images into your Lightroom, you're going to start doing some basic editing. First things first, let's talk through the options we got here. First of all, you've got the library option here, top left-hand corner. And down here where you can see me just circling, you have a toggle which makes it a sort of like a contact sheet of all your images that you've downloaded. There they are on this particular disk. Or you can actually fact click on that again, go to the single image, which is the next icon along, which in actual fact will go to one of the images which you've selected. The next toggle along on the top is the develop module, and this is where you'll see when you open up the develop module, you've got all your sliders available down the right hand side. Sorry, you'll see me just sliding down. You can see all these options available to you here: exposure, contrast, highlight, shadows, and those things. And I'm going to go through and show you how they work. You've also got a book option where you want to create some books from your selected photographs. You can have a slideshow if you want to show them on your TV when you've got guests around. And of course, you've got the print module when you want to send your photos to print. This is the module which I use when I'm printing my work. You also have a web option where you can actual fact line up to send them to the web for your family and friends and maybe customers to look at on the web. So that's basically the options you got at the top. I've just selected this particular image I took down in Brighton in the summer. I think it was the only glorious summer day that we had, and I was on the Brighton pier there, or the Eastbourne pier. I don't know which one is still standing. I always forget. So I just want to show you what the sliders can do, and they are pretty powerful sliders, I would hasten to add. There's a lot of rescue that you can make from your images. A great deal of rescue. If you think you've got a poor image, you'd be surprised what you can get. And a great image can be improved still better. So let's just see what they do. Let's touch the exposure slider. And as you can see, take it down totally to black, totally almost to white. So that's a good balance there. That's ideal. And I'm going to leave that on 0 for the moment. Contrast does. See the scar dark and richer colors coming in with the contrast and then taking the contrast away. The highlights. This is an interesting set of sliders here. If you reduce the highlights, just takes down the brightness of these white buildings, increase the shadows. You can see it all increases in the shadows on this lower level here. You're getting almost very, very close to an HDR styled photograph. And previously HDR photographers would have had to use 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 images and then sandwich them together in a program to get the highlights and the shadows on an even balance for the image. Lightroom is becoming so powerful now that an almost light HDR image can be created using just these sliders. Double click on highlights, returns it to 0, and shadows returns it to 0. Now the whites. The whites can be increased significantly or decreased if you think they're too bright. Same applies with the blacks. Blacks can be darkened or lightened. depending on which way you take it. The clarity slider is one which does 2 or 3 things. It doesn't sharpen your image. Don't get that confused. But it basically takes contrast and blacks and the shadows all into consideration and really gives it a real big punch. Take it too far and you'll destroy the image, in my opinion. So you've got to be very careful where you slide this. Generally, I use this between 0 and 36. Vibrance does exactly what it says on the tin. It adds vibrance to your images. And if you like that, this is the one that you're going to be looking at. It's slightly different to saturation. Saturation works this way. Let me just double click on that to get that to 0. Saturation, slightly different. So the vibrance and the saturation, you've got to make a choice which one you use there. Sometimes you can balance up using both. There's the curve option, which a lot of you will be familiar with using in Photoshop and maybe in Elements. Works exactly the same way, but I very, very rarely use this tonal curve part in the module. This area here, HSL, color and black and white, purely this is where I use it to go to a black and white image. So I click on black and white, and then I get the options of all the colors which are in that image, and I can adjust accordingly what I want to do. You can see where I'm just moving the slider for the reds here, and you can see the reds in the image are getting darker or they're getting lighter, and it's depending on what I want. If I want that sky to be really black, I can just slide the blue to the dark area and I get a totally different view of the image. In actual fact, if you take the greens down and increase the reds, you're getting very close to an almost infrared type image. So it's worth looking at these different sliders which are available. Let's just take the orange. You can, that's the beach which is being affected there. So you can make these changes. Split toning basically is, as it says, split toning in terms of you take the highlights, you can make all your highlights lighter, and you can go to the shadows and make the shadows darker, and you can start playing around with split toning there. I've got to get that back to 0 now. And then this one. And also I can go down to the bottom and do a reset if I want to bring it back into the color one. Now the most important part of the develop module, in my opinion, is the sharpening module sliders down here, because I think sometimes a lot of people over sharpen their images. You end up with a halo around a lot of the sharper edges of your image. So let's just see what actually happens with the image when I let's just increase the size of the image there by just using the, up on the top left hand corner, you've got an option to go with fit. That fits the image to the screen. Fill means the same thing really. And then of course you've got your zoom modules of 1:1 and 2:1. There's 2:1 and there's 1:1. I very rarely work above 2:1, to be honest with you. So let's just slide the image down and see what happens when you just put the sharpening tool right to its edge. All the noise comes into the image. It's totally over sharpened. The most important thing, that go along this edge. Can you see this edge of all this highlight here? You don't want that. You do not want that. Just return it back until it's to an area where you're happy with. But the main thing is you mustn't get these highlights, which will start feeding in as I go over to. And you may think, oh, I want my image to be really, really sharp, but look at the edges when you do it. When you do that, you will spoil your image without a shadow of doubt. Now, sometimes you'll get an image with a lot of noise in. This particular, there's a little bit of noise up in the sky here, just a little bit. I hope you can see that. I've sharpened it to 41. I've left the radiance, the detail, and the masking for the time being I left the same. I'll show you how that works in a second. But the luminance is the next one, because luminance is a very clever tool. It will naturally noise, and you can see just by me moving that from 0. Can you see the noise at the top here? And then if I move the luminance up above 68, it just disappears. It's a very, very clever tool and a superb tool to use. One small tip which I learned from one of the guys on the YouTubes: keep the number of sharpening, in this case 41, and the luminance, in this case 43. Keep that to below 100 in total. It queers the balance of the image if you go above 100. Now the masking tool is interesting because I haven't got any clouds in this particular image. If I go back, and I'm going to show you what happens when you use the masking tool. Hold down the Alt key on your keyboard, click on the masking, and you can see it goes to this sort of very uncontrast, very light image. And as you go, slide the tool up. What the masking tool is doing is masking out the sky. Let's do it again. It's masking out the sky and the sea and parts of the beach, but is in fact instructing Lightroom to apply luminance and sharpening to those lighter areas. It's a great tool, adds so much punch to your image. And again, don't overdo it. Don't overdo the masking tool. I think 46 to 50 is ideal. So let's just go up to 2.1 to see how that's affected our image. And there you can see it. I think in actual fact, considering my image, the beach is a little bit overdone there, I suppose. I can just bring that down. Just reduce the sharpening a little bit. But as you can see, as an example for this workshop, I'm pretty pleased with that example there to show you how those sliders work. Right, down at the bottom, we come to lens correction, and this is a must. Click on the enable profile corrections, and you have lens profile make. And this is all set for my camera, which is the Fujifilm, and I use the X100S for this. But if you click on that, it gives you a list of all the cameras, the majority of cameras that are available. Canon is there, obviously Nikon, Fuji, Sony's here. You know, they're all basically there that you need to worry about. So that sets the profile. From the profile, you can now start adding, according to that lens and the profile that you've actually set, you can start adding a nice vignette to your images. Now I'm going to go over the top here to show you what the vignette does, and this is the bit where I'm suggesting to one of the guys in the workshop, this is what I would think you need to look at with your images to concentrate the center part of the image and not have too brighter areas in the corners and on the side. You can go the other way, of course, if you want a sort of like an early 1900s type image to your shot, but a lot of the guys now are darkening down their corners to concentrate people into the center of the image. You can add your midpoint, just brightens up the center a little bit if you want, or you can reduce it. I tend to leave that one alone. And then, of course, if you are in the mono mode, the grain is, let's just see what that actual fact does to the grain of the image, and just wait for that to load up a little bit. And there we go. We've got a really grain, will look great in a mono effect. Let's go up and click that to mono, and you can see what it looks like. Doesn't show much on the fit page, but when it's zoomed in at 1:1, you can see the grain. And sometimes when you print on some of these matte papers, that grain really does make a difference. So that's basically the basics, sorry to repeat those two words, of what the tools in Lightroom can do for you. And really the best way to learn about Lightroom is literally to practice, is just get to use how these sliders work and really go through it. It appears to be difficult. It appears at first glance there's too many sliders, and people get concerned as regards to what they're doing and what to use. But you won't actually know for yourself until you actually use the slider and see what it actually does to your image. Now I quickly wanted to go back because I mentioned about Peter's image there of the individuals on the street. Now I've gone back to library. I'm still on that same image, so I click on the square tool there, which shows the contact sheet of the disk that we've downloaded. So what I'm looking for here is an image where I can give you a good example of what we can do in Lightroom, and I'm just wondering whether it's probably better for me to go to another option. But let me just check first of all to see if there is one here, rather than go to another folder. It'd probably be best if I did something else actually. So see on when I visited Munich, see if there's one here. Just bear with me. Trying to find an image where we'll give there's one there. Perfect. So into develop module. Set to what it first came out. Set. And there we have it. Okay, so the image, if you can remember, of Peter taking a photograph of the lady with the phone to her head against a brick wall. I think you've got to work on the basis of that image where the lady needs to be brightened in the image. So this is what I would do in this scenario here. This is an interesting crop tool, which I didn't talk about. You can see that, but it keeps it to the same dimensions of the actual image that brought it. You can go change this by going to the padlock, unlocking the padlock, going to original, click on custom, and then I've got to make sure it's undone. Custom. There we go. I can now accordingly. Now this particular image was, I just grabbed this image as people were coming out of the theater, and I've cropped it to that, concentrating on this. Now my main focus here was this lady. This is what I wanted to concentrate on this area. So I'm going to, just for this description of this event here, I'm going to drop the highlights. I'm going to drop the exposure deliberately to show the example of what this is not what I would do. Just add a little bit of shadows, detail, bringing it out. And then with this select tool up here, can you see it lighten up? This select tool will open up another window. And I want to make sure everything here is to 0. So I just double click on any of those names, exposure right the way down to defringe. Reduce the size of the clone of the selected area and add exposure. And as you can see, her face, I'm going to go right to the end, is now brighter or it's darker. And I want her face to be prominent in the image. A little bit of contrast just to balance it. Take the highlights down and I'm done. Now you can see she's a brighter face. My concentration is on her. To make it even more concentration on her face, I can go to the select tool again, open up the select and take the exposure down. Now the concentration is on her face. Everything is going into us. It's not quite the type of image that is the same as what Peter took, but it shows you what you can achieve. And really, it's almost like having a spot flash on someone's face. It guides you into her face. So I hope that's helped, just as an example on that. So we'll just run through it again. select the image that you want, make your crop. Go to the select tool, which is this one up on the top right hand corner here. Click the select tool, which gives you the option of a brush. Reduce it down to the size and just paint over her face just by simply then increase the exposure. And if you do that subtly, don't overdo it because it looks as though it's cooked and it looks ridiculous. I think that will improve your image. We can, in actual fact, hopefully be able to show you before and after. There you can see. It's just an example of the work. This is one photograph which I ditched, but I thought because I'm trying to concentrate the image on that lady's face coming out of there, I want to kill all the unnecessary light around her, which I think when you use, Peter, in that image with the lady with the phone in the alley with the brickwork on the lights, I think that would work really well for that particular image. So library, I'll just do a reset on that image. Library, and back out of screen share. So the basics of Lightroom, and really to a degree, there's so much more to Lightroom which we can talk through at a later stage, and hopefully as we work together through this these workshops, that you'll be getting more used to how Lightroom can really improve your photography. The camera does so much. And you can set your camera to basically almost to the images to download and print straight away. But the editing tool just helps you add that finer bit of finishing to your images, just like they used to do in the old days with the darkroom, where they used to do the dodging and burning. So hopefully that's helped you, and get yourself a copy of Lightroom. I, in actual fact, use the package, the Lightroom CC and Photoshop CC package. It's £8 a month. So it's regularly upgraded from Adobe. I don't have to worry about going to buy a new version every year or so when they bring it out. It automatically updates. I think it's very good value for money, quite honest with you, especially when you consider that Lightroom alone would probably cost in the region of around about £100, £110 alone. So it's good value to get Lightroom and Photoshop together. I haven't talked about the presets which are available in Lightroom. I thought I'd leave that to another time. Again, I don't want to confuse the issue with you guys. I just want to talk you through the basics, and we'll get more and more involved and in depth with regards to the tools that are available in Lightroom. So 2 things to talk about. My book of the day, or book of the week rather, is by Michael Levin. Michael Levin is an absolute superb photographer in the art of minimalization. And his work is available in this book called his Vibrato. It's very readily available on Amazon. And Michael is really from the school of Michael Kenner, of creating very simplistic images and minimalistic in their form. Here's another image. Great book. Sorry, you got a bit of flashback there from the from the light, but it's a great book to study if you're into landscape work and minimalistic type work. He's another photographer, excuse me, that you would like to add to your library. So Michael Levin, Levin, Vibrato is the name of his of that particular book. He's done others, and he's well known for that work. Okay, so that's workshop number 7. Next workshop, number 8, I'm going to set an assignment. And the assignment will be for those to post your images onto the Flickr. So we'll talk about an assignment next week. I've got to get my head around to think of something. Something that you want to work on a project, but let's probably just take it outside of those projects for the moment and think of something totally different. So I'll get my head around that, and we'll talk about how you create an assignment. Maybe you guys would like to drop me a line via the links and suggest an assignment which you want to want to put together, and we can talk about that maybe. But I'll be getting my heads around some ideas for you, and we'll set an assignment, and then I'll give you 2 weeks basically to put your assignment together and post them up on Flickr. And then the workshop number 9 will be talking about those assignment images that have been posted up. So fingers crossed, you guys put some images up for us to talk about, and I'll be looking forward to doing that. But that's workshop number 8 next week will be setting the assignment and what we're going to be looking for, and then in workshop number 9 we'll be talking about the assignment and discussing through the images. So thanks for watching. I hope my basics of Lightroom has helped you. If there's any questions you need to ask that you're not too clear about, please drop me a line, and I'll be happy to answer any of your questions when using this, what I consider the best photo editing tool available to us at the moment. So thanks for watching, and look forward to seeing you next time. Thanks again. Bye for now.